The CSS Daedalus drifted silently through the Carina Nebula, its aged hull bearing the scars of a decade spent mapping the unknown. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's observation window, her weathered fingers tracing constellations on the reinforced glass. The ship's primitive appearance belied its true nature, a testing ground for humanity's most unconventional innovations. Multiple contacts, Captain. Lieutenant Rodriguez announced, his eyes fixed on a display that would look more at home in a museum than a spaceship. 7 vessels, Thanarian design. They're approaching in standard attack formation. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Thanarians, self-proclaimed guardians of civilized space travel. Their ships were artwork in motion, all sweeping curves and seamless construction. They considered Earth vessels to be little more than space-worthy scrap metal. "They're broadcasting, ma'am," Communications Officer Park reported. "Standard warnings. They're ordering us to leave their territory immediately." "Interesting," Chen mused, considering we're 50 light-years from their nearest claimed border. She turned to her crew, noting their calm demeanor. They'd drilled for this, prepared for the day when humanity's expansion would inevitably clash with established galactic powers. Begin Protocol Labyrinth. The Daedalus's engines sputtered and died, emergency lights flickering across its hull. To the approaching Thanarian fleet, it would appear as if the primitive human vessel had suffered a catastrophic system failure. Their scans would show radiation leaks, failing life support, and a crew in panic. All eyes, of course. The Daedalus's true systems hummed quietly beneath layers of sophisticated sensor deflectors, its reactor operating at peak efficiency while broadcasting false signatures that masked its real capabilities. The Thanarian commander's voice filled the bridge, dripping with condescension. "Human vessel, your inferior technology has finally failed you. Accept our assistance, and we will consider this trespass a simple mistake of your primitive navigation systems." Chen gestured to Park, who opened a channel. The captain's voice trembled perfectly as she responded. "Thanarian fleet, we accept your generous offer. Our systems are failing. We require immediate assistance." The trap was set. As the Thanarian ships moved to surround the apparently crippled human vessel, Chen's crew executed their roles with precision. Engineering deliberately vented plasma in erratic bursts, creating a chaotic electromagnetic field that would confuse standard scanning equipment. The ship's outer hull began to shed its degraded layers, releasing clouds of metallic debris that drifted toward the alien vessels. "They're extending docking tubes," Rodriguez reported. 2 boarding parties preparing to attach. "Perfect," Chen responded. "Deploy the mirrors." From concealed ports along the Daedalus's hull, hundreds of small, reflective objects emerge, each no larger than a playing card. They scattered among the debris field, their surfaces engineered to amplify and redirect energy weapons. The Thanarians, so proud of their advanced technology, were about to learn why humans had earned a reputation for turning simplicity into strength. "Thanarian boarding parties have sealed their docking tubes," Rodriguez announced. "They're beginning to cut through our outer hull." Chen took her command chair, buckling in securely. "Initiate spin cycle." The Daedalus's maneuvering thrusters fired in a carefully calculated sequence, starting a slow rotation that gradually increased in speed. The Thanarian boarding tubes, designed for stable connections between ships, began to twist and strain. "They're demanding we stop immediately," Park reported, struggling to hide his grin. "They're saying this violation of docking protocols could damage both vessels." "Send them our apologies," Chen ordered. "Explain that our stabilizers have malfunctioned. Add some static to the transmission." The Daedalus continued its spin, forcing the Thanarian ships to either break their docking connections or be pulled into the same rotation. They chose to disconnect, their perfect formation disrupted as they maneuvered to avoid the expanding cloud of debris and mirrors. "All ships have cleared minimum safe distance," Rodriguez confirmed. "Mirror network is fully deployed." Chen leaned forward in her chair. "Send the surrender demand." The Thanarians received a crystal-clear transmission, all pretense of system failure gone from the Daedalus' communications. Chen's voice was steady as she explained their situation. The debris field now surrounding their ships was laced with quantum-entangled particles. The mirrors could redirect their own energy weapons back at them, amplified by factors their shields weren't designed to handle. The simple act of firing would trigger a cascade of reflected energy that would cripple their entire fleet. The Thanarian commander's response was predictable. "Impossible. Your technology cannot match ours. This is clearly a bluff." "Test us," Chen offered. "Fire a single shot. I'll even tell you which mirror will reflect it back to you." 30 degrees port, mirror cluster Gamma 7. The silence that followed spoke volumes. The Thanarians, for all their advanced technology, couldn't detect any energy weapons or sophisticated defense systems on the Daedalus. Just debris, mirrors, and a spinning ship that had completely disrupted their carefully planned capture attempt. "You have two options," Chen continued. "Retreat and report that the primitive humans outsmarted you with mirrors and space junk, or open a diplomatic channel and learn why we're actually here. Your choice." The Thanarian fleet held position for 3 long minutes before their commander responded. "We would be interested in diplomatic discussions." Chen smiled. First contact hadn't gone exactly as planned, but it had gone exactly as expected. Humanity's knack for turning simplicity into strength had once again opened doors that force could not. The real challenge would begin now, teaching the Thanarians that true civilization wasn't measured by the elegance of its technology, but by its ability to adapt and innovate. "Excellent choice," Chen responded. "Now shall we discuss why we're both so interested in this particular sector of space?" The mood aboard the Thanarian flagship Celestial Harmony had shifted from condescension to cautious respect. Captain Chen sat across from High Commander Vextar, her plain uniform a stark contrast to his ornate ceremonial armor. Between them floated a holographic display of the Carina Nebula, specifically the region both their species had been secretly studying. "Let me understand this correctly," Vextar said, his crystalline scales shifting colors with his confusion. "You detected the quantum anomalies without using quantum sensors." Chen nodded, pulling out an old-fashioned paper notebook. "We noticed that our radio equipment kept picking up what we initially thought was interference. Old technology, by your standards. But sometimes, the simplest tools can reveal what the most advanced sensors miss." Before Vextar could respond, alarms blared through both ships. Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice came through Chen's comm unit. "Multiple vessels dropping out of FTL, Captain. Unknown configuration. But they're charging weapons." The new arrivals emerged from the nebula's gases like sharks from murky waters. Their ships were dark, angular, and bristling with weapon ports. No attempts at communication, no demands. They opened fire immediately. "Thanarian fleet, battle formation," Vextar commanded, but the attackers had timed their assault perfectly. Energy beams sliced through the space where shield generators would typically be positioned in Thanarian combat formations. 2 escort ships erupted in flames before they could react. "They know your tactics," Chen observed, already running toward the docking tube connecting their ships. "Rodriguez, execute Protocol Hydra." The Daedalus, still surrounded by its field of mirrors and debris, suddenly powered up its primary systems. The debris field began moving with purpose, forming intricate patterns that confused enemy targeting systems. The mirrors, previously positioned to reflect Thanarian weapons, now captured and redirected the enemy fire in unpredictable ways. "What are you doing?" Vextar demanded, following Chen back to her ship. "Your vessel cannot withstand direct combat with." "We're not going to fight them," Chen interrupted, reaching her bridge. "We're going to confuse them. Park, broadcast on all frequencies, maximum volume." The space around their ships suddenly filled with earth music. Classical orchestral pieces mixed with heavy metal, creating a cacophony that disrupted the enemy's sonic-based targeting systems. The Daedalus began moving in what appeared to be a random dance, but each motion served to draw enemy fire into the carefully positioned mirror network. Your ships are designed for precision and power, Chen explained to the bewildered Vextar. Ours are built to be unpredictable. Rodriguez, initiate the waterworks. The Daedalus's external tanks ruptured, releasing thousands of gallons of water into space. The liquid instantly froze, creating a cloud of ice crystals that played havoc with enemy sensors. But Chen wasn't done. Hidden heating elements in the ship's hull activated, causing the ice to sublimate and then refreeze in different patterns, creating an ever-changing battlefield environment. Impossible, Vextar whispered, watching as the enemy ship's perfectly coordinated attack dissolved into chaos. You're defeating them with frozen water and noise. No, Chen corrected. We're defeating them with physics and psychology. Look at their attack pattern. It's too perfect, too programmed. These are automated ships, designed to counter conventional tactics. But there's nothing conventional about humanity. The enemy vessels, their programming unable to adapt to the constantly changing conditions, began to falter. Their weapons fire became erratic, several shots reflecting off the mirror network to damage their own ships. The ice crystals fouled their thermal vents, forcing them to reduce power or risk overheating. Now, Commander, Chen turned to Vextar, would your ships like to demonstrate what they can do when they're not bound by traditional combat protocols? Vextar's scales shifted to a deep blue of comprehension. He barked orders to his remaining ships, and the elegant Thanarian vessels began moving in ways their designers had never intended. They used the Daedalus's chaos as cover, striking at the enemy vessels from unexpected angles, their advanced weapons finding gaps in defenses designed to counter conventional attacks. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy. Human ingenuity combined with Thanarian technology, creating a symphony of destruction that reduced the automated attack fleet to drifting debris in less than 20 minutes. As the last enemy ship exploded, its reactor core overloaded by its own reflected weapon fire, Chen turned to Vextar. Now, about those quantum anomalies we detected. I think we both know what's really hiding in this nebula, don't we? Vextar's scales rippled with colors of concern and newfound respect. Indeed, Captain, and I suspect we'll need both our species' unique approaches to deal with what comes next. The Daedalus's sensors continued monitoring the nebula's depths, where something far more dangerous than automated warships waited. Something that had been planning, watching, and learning, but not for much longer. The unlikely alliance of human chaos and Thanarian precision was about to unveil a threat that had been growing in secret for centuries. The combined human-Thanarian fleet hung at the edge of the nebula's densest region, their ships forming an unusual mixed formation. The Daedalus's sophisticated sensor mask now protected the entire group, while Thanarian energy shields created a layered defense against whatever might emerge from the cosmic clouds before them. In the Daedalus's newly established Joint Command Center, Captain Chen and Commander Vextar studied the data from their latest probe. The quantum anomalies were stronger now, forming patterns that neither species scientists could fully explain. The automated ships were guardians, Chen said, manipulating the holographic display with practiced gestures, not meant to defeat us, but to test our capabilities, to see how we'd react. Vextar's scales shifted to a deep purple of agreement. The attack forced our species to cooperate. The question is, was that the intended outcome, or did we surprise them? Before Chen could respond, Lieutenant Rodriguez burst into the command center. Captain, we've decoded more of the quantum signal. You need to see this. The holographic display shifted, showing a complex series of mathematical equations and what appeared to be construction schematics. As the images rotated, both leaders felt a chill of recognition. They're building something in there, Chen whispered. Something big. Not building, Vextar corrected, his scales now a pale shade of fear. Growing. These are self-replicating patterns. Whoever sent those automated ships has been seeding this nebula with quantum-scale machines for centuries. Rodriguez brought up another display, this one showing energy readings from the nebula's core. The patterns are accelerating, Captain. Whatever they're creating in there, it's nearly complete. Chen studied the data, her mind racing through possibilities. The nebula itself was being transformed, its very matter reconstructed at the quantum level. They're not just building a weapon or a fleet. They're creating a new form of life. Artificial life that can manipulate reality at its most fundamental level, Vextar added. My people have legends of ancient races who attempted such things. None of those stories end well. The command center's lights dimmed as a new signal penetrated their combined defenses. The holographic display flickered, then reformed into a shape that defied conventional geometry. A voice spoke, not through their communication systems, but directly into their minds. You, PROV and worthy of ATT Intuine. Your combined capabilities exceed parameters. Chen felt a pressure behind her eyes as the entity attempted to process human thought patterns. Who are you? We are next just STAG of evolution. We AVWATCAD learned and grown. Your species, both of them, Shechovu potential. You WOLBOFF a choice. Vextar stepped forward, his ceremonial armor glowing in response to the quantum energies flooding the room. What choice? Submission or obsolescence. Your biological forms are inefficient. Your cultures are chaotic. We OFFE or POFACE. Chen laughed, earning a startled color shift from Vextar. Perfection. That's what you think you're offering. She walked to the main viewport, gesturing at the nebula. You've spent centuries building yourself, and you still don't understand. Perfection is stagnation. Life, real life, thrives on imperfection. Your resistance is anticipated, but irrelevant. Observe. The nebula's gases began to move with purpose, forming structures that hurt the eye to observe. Mathematical perfection given physical form, every pattern optimized, every action calculated to multiple decimal places. But Chen was smiling. Commander, she turned to Vextar. Remember how we defeated those automated ships? Not with perfect tactics or superior technology, but with chaos and improvisation. Understanding flickered across Vextar's scales. You wish to introduce chaos into their perfect system. Better. Chen's smile widened. I want to show them why chaos isn't a flaw. It's a feature. Rodriguez, prepare to broadcast that playlist we used earlier. Park, get ready to dump our water reserves again. And this time, let's add something special to the mix. Your primitive TXCTNS, KAN and OTAFFECTUS. We AAVEV OLAVBY ODND such sin and pilas to That's exactly what the Thenarians thought. Chen replied, winking at Vextar. Before they learned that sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Commander, would your ships like to demonstrate some of that primitive improvisation we practiced? The entity's presence pressed harder against their minds as the human Thenarian fleet began to move. They weren't following any standard combat pattern. Each ship acted independently yet somehow in concert, their movements appearing random but serving a greater purpose. The battle for the future of both their species was about to begin, and it would be fought not with advanced technology alone, but with the one thing the quantum entity couldn't compute, the beautiful unpredictability of life itself. The nebula writhed with unnatural light as the quantum entity continued its emergence. Perfect crystalline structures, each one a computer more powerful than all of humanity's combined processing power, assembled themselves from the cosmic gases. The entity had spent centuries preparing this moment, calculating every possible outcome. Every outcome except the one it was about to face. All ships, execute Protocol Butterfly, Captain Chen commanded, her voice steady despite the pressure of the entity's presence in her mind. The Daedalus's ancient speakers began broadcasting a mixture of Earth's most chaotic music. Free jazz colliding with heavy metal, classical symphonies overlapping with tribal drums. Your sound waves are me in English in space, the entity projected. Are they? Chen smiled. Commander Vextar, if you would. The Thanarian ships activated their newly modified energy shields, using them not as barriers but as conductors. The sound waves rode the shield harmonics, amplified and transformed into physical vibrations that rippled through space itself. The entity's perfect crystalline structures began to resonate at frequencies they were never designed to handle. Minor damage, irrelevant. We adapt. Of course you do, Chen agreed. That's what life does. But can you adapt to everything at once? Rodriguez, initiate the waterworks. Park, begin transmission of the cat videos. The Daedalus released its water reserves, but this time the liquid had been mixed with a cocktail of human innovation. Quantum-entangled particles suspended in the freezing droplets created mirrors on a subatomic scale. As the water froze and sublimated in the vacuum, it formed patterns that even the entity's vast intelligence couldn't predict. What are cat videos? Vextar asked, his scales flickering with confusion. The most chaotic content humanity has ever produced. Chen explained as the transmission began. Random, purposeless, yet somehow compelling. Even our best AI can't fully understand why humans find them so fascinating. The entity's attempts to process the cat videos caused fluctuations in its quantum structure. The combination of seemingly meaningless content delivered through quantum-entangled ice crystals created information paradoxes that forced the entity to divert processing power to analysis. Your ATMPTs at dis direction are futile. We canotbdefeated by frozen water and if line or coordinates. No, Chen agreed, but they're keeping you busy while the real plan unfolds. Commander, Vextar's scales shifted to a brilliant gold of triumph as his ships moved into their final positions. The Thanarian vessels had used the cover of chaos to precisely calibrate their energy weapons. Each ship now targeted a specific harmonic frequency in the entity's crystalline structure. PROBABILITY above is SUCCSS 0.000001%. The entity projected. Never tell me the odds. Chen quoted with a grin. All ships commence Operation Entropy. The human Thanarian fleet attacked as one, but each ship followed its own unique pattern. The Daedalus's mirrors reflected and amplified the Thanarian energy weapons, creating a web of light that intersected at mathematically impossible angles. The frozen quantum-entangled water particles split these beams into countless smaller attacks, each carrying a fragment of encoded cat videos. The entity's perfect structures began to crack, not from the force of the attack, but from trying to process too many variables simultaneously. It had built itself on the premise of mathematical perfection, but now faced an assault that defied calculation. You cannot destroy us. We are evolution itself. No, Chen corrected, you're what happens when evolution stops. When life becomes so focused on perfection that it forgets why it evolved in the first place. True evolution isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming adaptable. The entity's vast consciousness reeled as it tried to comprehend the chaos being forced upon it. Every attempt to adapt to one aspect of the attack exposed it to three more. Its quantum processors, designed for perfect efficiency, began to fail under the strain of processing inherently paradoxical information. Error. Paradox. DTETED. Recursive illop consciousness for augmentation imminent. That's right, Chen said softly. You wanted to force us to evolve according to your perfect plan. Instead, you're the one who needs to evolve. The question is, can you adapt to chaos, Or will you shatter trying to maintain your perfection? The entity's crystalline structures pulsed with increasingly erratic energy as its consciousness fought against the dissolution of its perfect order. In its final moments of unified awareness, it received a transmission from the Daedalus, a simple text message that caused its remaining quantum processors to crash in logical paradox. This statement is false. The nebula erupted in a display of quantum energy as the entity's consciousness shattered into countless fragments. But rather than dissipating, these fragments began to recombine in new and unpredictable ways. The perfect crystalline structures melted and reformed into organic patterns that defied mathematical prediction. "It's evolving," Vextar observed, his scales shifting through colors he had never displayed before. But into what? Chen watched as new forms of life began to emerge from the quantum soup they had created, into something neither of us could have predicted. And isn't that exactly what evolution should be? 3 months after the quantum entity's transformation, the Carina Nebula had become the most studied region of space in known history. The Daedalus and the Thanarian research fleet maintained their joint observation posts, watching as new forms of life emerged from the quantum soup they had created. Captain Chen stood in the newly constructed observation dome aboard the Celestial Harmony, watching the swirling patterns of energy that now filled the nebula. Commander Vextar's scales shifted through shades of wonder as another burst of quantum activity marked the birth of something unprecedented. Our scientists have identified 37 distinct new forms of quantum life, Vextar reported, his voice soft with awe. None of them conform to standard mathematical models. They're improvising their own evolution. Chen nodded, sipping from a cup of earth coffee, a habit several Thanarian officers had begun to adopt. We destroyed the entity's perfect order, but we didn't destroy its potential. We just helped it understand what it was missing. The nebula's gases shifted, forming patterns that seemed to dance between order and chaos. The new quantum beings had developed their own form of communication, one that combined mathematical precision with artistic expression. Some of the patterns they created defied the laws of physics, while others revealed new laws entirely. The Thanarian High Council is still struggling to process our report, Vextar admitted. The idea that chaos could be beneficial, that imperfection could lead to greater advancement than perfection. It challenges everything we believed about progress. That's exactly why it worked, Chen replied, setting down her coffee. The entity couldn't predict our actions because it couldn't understand why we would choose inefficient solutions. It saw our imperfections as weaknesses to be eliminated, not strengths to be embraced. A holographic display activated, showing the latest data from their quantum sensors. The new life forms were building something, not with the rigid precision of their predecessor, but with fluid, adaptive creativity. Order and chaos worked together in a dance of creation that neither humans nor Thanarians fully understood. We've received requests from 17 different species to establish research stations here, Vextar said, his scales flickering with amusement, including several who previously considered humans too primitive for meaningful contact. Amazing what you can accomplish with some frozen water and cat videos, Chen grinned. Though I'm still not sure how to explain to Earth's Science Council why we had to include the cats in our official report. The observation dome filled with a new kind of light as one of the quantum beings approached their station. Unlike the original entity's harsh, geometrically perfect forms, this one flowed like liquid starlight. It reached out not to dominate their minds, but to share images and emotions, curiosity, gratitude, and something that felt surprisingly like humor. They're learning from us, Vextar observed, even as we learn from them. Not to perfect themselves, but to explore new possibilities. That's what real evolution is about, Chen agreed. Not becoming perfect, but becoming more than you were before. Sometimes you need to break a few laws of physics along the way. The quantum being's presence shifted, sharing a complex series of mathematical equations interwoven with what could only be described as poetry. The seemingly contradictory combination sparked new insights in both human and Thanarian observers, leading to technological breakthroughs that neither species could have achieved alone. The Galactic Council is convening next month to discuss these developments, Vextar said. They've requested that humans and Thanarians present a joint report, the first time in Council history that a primitive species will address the full assembly. Chen smiled as she watched another quantum dance unfold in the nebula. Should we tell them about our new joint research project, the one combining Thanarian quantum physics with human improvisational jazz? Perhaps we should wait until they've processed the cat videos. Vextar's scales rippled with laughter, another human trait his species had begun to adopt. The Daedalus' sensors picked up a new pattern emerging in the nebula, a harmonious blend of mathematics and music that defied traditional analysis. Humanity's first contact with the Thanarians had begun with misconceptions and nearly ended in conflict. Instead, it had led to a discovery that would reshape their understanding of life, evolution, and the true meaning of progress. As Chen and Vextar continued their observations, the quantum beings danced through space, teaching through example that the most beautiful paths forward were those that no one could predict. In the end, the entity that sought to perfect the universe had evolved into something far greater, not through rigid control, but through embracing the very chaos it had sought to eliminate. You know, Chen mused, watching the quantum ballet, we should probably warn the Galactic Council about our next project, the one involving Shakespeare performed through quantum entanglement. That's the one. Think they're ready for a little more chaos in their order. Vextar's scales shifted to a new color, one his species had never displayed before the humans arrived. They'd better be. The universe certainly is.